Now, exactly a year from electing a new chief executive in Florida, candidates for governor are lining up. You've met a few of them already on our show. Today, Orange County Mayor Jerry Demings as he enters the race and casts his vision. Plus, during the week of Valor to celebrate veterans in our military, we're speaking with former Congressman Allen West. We're also diving into the mission to stop veteran suicide on This Week in Jacksonville. So grateful you're with us today. Orange County Mayor Jerry Demings opened a campaign account a week ago to run in the Democratic primary. Demings previously served as Orlando's police chief and the Orange County sheriff. I spoke with him Thursday when he formally announced his run for governor. He says affordability is a key priority for him.
There are many reasons why I think they should vote for me, but if they want a proven leader to be at the helm of the great state of Florida, then I'm their guy. I have abundance of years of crisis management experience, and one of the main reasons that a governor exists in the state of Florida is to keep the people safe. Public safety is number one for me because of the broad background that I had. I was a law enforcement officer for over 37 years, and I bring that crisis management experience, handling everything from managing shootings, terror attacks, barricaded gunman situations, hostage situations, dealing with things such as responding to a hurricane or other weather phenomena, to managing a global pandemic and the response and recovery efforts associated with those efforts here within the Metro Orlando area. And so I'm a proud Floridian. I find myself in this relative position today running for the governor of Florida after quite a number of people for the last several years have been coming to me all across the state, imploring me to consider running for governor. And because of some of the politics that have been going on in the state of Florida, it had driven me to the moment in time where I feel compelled to get into the fight to work on behalf of the working class families of the state of Florida. I have a myriad of issues that I want to address in terms of affordability up and down the scale, from housing affordability, insurance costs, healthcare affordability, to other economic issues within the state of Florida. I'm looking to lead the effort for change and get back to some sense of normalcy where we have bipartisan leadership working together, leadership from the state working with local governments. Right now, that's really splintered across Florida. This administration has pushed local governments away. They have preempted local government authority. I promise that as the new governor of Florida, I will work with our local communities to make certain that our working class families and all families not only are just surviving, but they thrive within the state of Florida. And so addressing those underlying issues that I just talked about are central to my core responsibility as a future governor of Florida. I look forward to doing that.
In your announcement this week that you're in the fight, as you put it, that you're running for governor, one of the things you said was that you're making a pledge to make Florida more affordable. Do you think that affordability has been crushed here in the state of Florida? Because certainly what we've seen in these last several years, lots of things in the economy have changed and created pressure. How would you change that and make Florida more affordable?
Well, in the last 8 years, the cost of living of in Florida has gone up. We are now, depending upon which study you look at, anywhere from 22 in the nation to 34 in the nation. But what I can tell you is that based upon some research that I found by Smart Assets, what they said is that in order for the average individual to live comfortably in Florida, it now costs that individual on an annual basis, they need to have an income at least of over $97,000. For a family of four, in order to live comfortably in Florida now, that family needs to have total household income of over $217,000. So it's expensive to live in Florida. at a time when we're seeing people leaving Florida for various reasons. There was an article that came out in the Orlando Sentinel earlier this week that said 25% of Florida's population is considering leaving the state. I certainly hope that doesn't happen, because that will result in a brain drain, especially of our young adults, of recent graduates, and those who have entered our workplace. If they leave our state, then that's a challenge to fulfill all of the job needs that we have at a time when we're doing well. Tourism is doing well. I get to represent the tourism industry here across the globe, with Orlando being the #1 tourist destination in North America and one of the top 5 in the world. We've had to adapt to a changing environment, especially in the post-COVID era. And we're thriving here within our local community. I want to bring my experience with finances to the governor's mansion to help move Florida forward by having a focus on bringing new jobs, new industries into the area. My focus would be on bringing high-wage industries here, like the semiconductor manufacturing industry, like health sciences and everything that is happening around that entire space, to also bringing more of the defense contractors and modeling, simulation, and training into our region. That's certainly something that is central here in the Metro Orlando area. We do have the University of Central Florida Research Park that is here nearby that has over $6 to $7 billion in defense procurement on an annual basis. We certainly want to spread that across the state of Florida as well.
Mayor Demings, when you talk about affordability, one of the things that's coming right now with the state legislature getting ready for what happens in the legislative session in January, we're hearing these proposals about, hey, let's reduce or even wipe out property tax. Is that something that you could ever see being viable? Why or why not would you support that kind of cost?
Well, I don't see any scenario where there will be no property taxes, ad valorem taxes within the state of Florida. Is there an opportunity to reduce them? If they do so, they're going to have to replace that with something, some other type of taxation, because that's the way the government works. We will not be able to assess fees and charge people for the services that government provides in general. If we did so, for some people, that's going to be a disproportionate impact. That would be a regressive tax on those who are not wealthy within our community. And so that won't work. Currently, I am a member of the Florida Association of Counties. I am chairing a select committee to review whatever comes out of the state in terms of property tax reform, with a response on behalf of all of Florida's 67 counties. Today, we've had some meetings with senior leadership from the legislature, both the House and the Senate. And I can tell you that there's no consistent response yet. We'll have to wait and see until after the legislative session ends in January where we end up, because the proposals that have come out of the Florida House compared to what the governor wants, they are not in agreement with that as well. And because of that, anyone can take a guess perhaps at what property tax reform will look like. But today, there's no specific plan that we're dealing with. That will come after the session, more than likely.
And Jerry Demings becomes the second major Democrat in the race, joining David Jolly. On the Republican side, two notable candidates currently filed, Congressman Byron Donalds and Jacksonville's Paul Renner, the former Speaker of the Florida House. Jerry Demings, married to someone that you've seen on our show before, Val Demings. She was born in Jacksonville, graduated from Wolfson High, before also serving as Orlando's police chief, then going on to serve in Congress. All right, when we come back, a local elected leader and a leader of men in the United States military. We're talking about ending veteran suicide and the efforts there. That's next on This Week in Jacksonville.
You're watching This Week in Jacksonville with Kent Justice.
So the numbers are really heartbreaking. Veterans are 58% more likely to die by suicide. And since 2001, that is, I've read that more than 140,000 veterans have taken their own lives. In Florida, there are more than 1.5 million veterans. So here's the big question. What does it take to end veteran suicide? That's the commitment made by a local organization created to turn those numbers around and to save lives. Nick Howland is with me here in studio, and retired Brigadier General Mike Fleming joining us today by Zoom. General, you were the one who first told me about the Firewatch. So tell us, what's the mission and how does it happen?
So, Ken, as you know, we have a challenge with veteran suicide. And in 2019, Roy Diamond decided that we needed to do something different. So we created something called the Firewatch. And the Firewatch is a collaboration between the 5 counties in Northeast Florida and to really end veteran suicide. What could we do together? And so Rory got all the other county commissions, the city of Jacksonville, all to agree to that. And I was fortunate enough to be the chair. And the challenge was that we all agreed veteran suicide is bad. We don't need a campaign to convince anybody of that. But what could we do different? So myself and the other 4 members, we really started working very diligently, and with Rory and his team, and then Nick Howland, fortunately, became our executive director. And then we decided to approach it differently. We wanted to say, well, how could we reach the 90%, meaning the 90% of people who've never served but want to do something for the military. And so what we developed was something called a Watchstander program. And we've had tremendous success with that. It's over 10,000 people have been through our Watchstander training, and over 70% of them never had any military experience. So I know Nick can provide some additional information, but really it's to create a sea of goodwill around veterans and their families and let them know they're supported. And then we can make a difference, and we have, in ending veteran suicide.
Yeah, General, yeah, I saw that firsthand because when you first talked to me about the Watchstander program, that seemed to be based on you knew my affection for veterans, our military community. You knew I would want to be involved. Nick Howland, yeah, many people know you. You're an elected member of the city council in Jacksonville, but as General Fleming just said, you're executive director of the Firewatch. Tell us about any progress that you feel like Firewatch has made over these 5, now almost 6 years.
Yeah, Ken, thanks for having us both on today. And right, my day job is running the Firewatch. My midnight job, which goes to midnight or sometimes 4 in the morning, is city council. But the Firewatch, we like to call it, is Florida's fight to end veteran suicide. We're founded on 3 beliefs. The first one being that suicide is preventable. The second one being that we need to get veterans to the help they need before they slip into crisis. And the third one is that the community, not just veterans, but the overall broader community can play a role. And why that's so important is that every other veteran suicide prevention or veteran serving organization, most others, are veterans helping veterans. We're engaging the broader civilian community to help veterans. And the way we're doing that is by launching the program called the Watchstander program. So what we're doing is training community members to recognize the signs of crisis in veterans and to get them to the help they need. And Kent, as you know, we launched our Watchstander program on your very show in early 2020, and we were appropriately socially distanced.
Yeah, at the time we sure were. I think we were in separate rooms even at that point. General Fleming, over these 5 years since the Watchstander program launched, how do you feel that's gone? And you talked about how many civilians versus veterans are Watchstanders. And then what's the feedback you get? How do you know it's making an impact from people talking to you about it?
Well, it's very interesting you asked that, Kent. We actually do surveys of our Watchstanders. And then we've asked them, have you referred a veteran to service, which is really what we want. We all have a sphere of influence, and, people will be watching this. But we want everybody, the neighbors, everyone engaged with the veterans' lives to really understand the challenges faced by veterans and their families. And so the progress we've made is phenomenal. Like I said, over 10,000. And Rory Diamond laughingly said that was our goal when we started. Nick and I kind of looked at him, but to Rory's credit, he was a visionary and made that happen. And so what we're able to do is make a difference in individual lives. And that's where we want to be. Each individual veteran, because when we talk about 19 or 22 veterans a day, those are 22 people. And then we always talk about the fact that the suicide affects at least 135 people. So we have helped save lives, not just Firewatch, but all the partners across Northeast Florida working against veteran suicide, and we've made a big difference.
Nick Allen, lean into that 10,000 number for watchstanders. This seems like a milestone moment, right?
Huge milestone, and that's what we're here to announce today, that we've achieved 10,000 watchstanders since we launched it right here on this show 5 years ago. And why that's so important is, as the General alluded to, our survey data shows us that every watchstander refers on average about 1.5 veterans to services every year. That means our network of 10,000 watchstanders will make 15,000 referrals over the next 12 months, and it's working. If you look across the nation since 2019, when we were founded, veteran suicides are down 1%. Across the state of Florida, they're down 5%. And in Northeast Florida, where the largest proportion of our watchstanders are, veteran suicides are down 25%.
I'm letting that sink in. That is a big, big difference. And I'm gonna have to wrap up after this, but as I understand it, you've expanded beyond the 5-county area of Northeast Florida. So does this have appeal to other areas of the state and maybe even in other parts of the country, Nick?
Yeah, well, actually, in parallel to the watchstander program, we also collect data in partnership with the Florida Department of Health and local data analytics company NLP Logics. And that data shows where to grow our watchstander network, where the highest risks are across the state of Florida. We've grown it in the Tampa Bay area, in Southeast Florida, now more recently on the Space Coast and out in Escambia. And we're going to bring that watchstander program where the risk is highest to try to end veteran suicide.
Yeah. Nick Allen, I appreciate it. Executive Director of the Firewatch, General Fleming, thank you, one of the founders, and obviously you two gentlemen as veterans. Let me speak for my civilian friends. Thank you for what you have done and what you're doing right now on this really important topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
Getthefirewatch.org.
There you go. Wouldn't miss an opportunity to tell people about it. Thank you very much, General. All right, a different focus on veterans when we come back. My interview with nationally known Lieutenant Colonel Allen West. That's next on This Week in Jacksonville.
You're watching This Week in Jacksonville on Channel 4.
He's a fairly well-known former U.S. representative from Florida, also an advocate for other men and women like him who have served in the military. I spoke with retired Lieutenant Colonel Allen West recently during a graduation from a program locally helping veterans go from service to civilian duty. Colonel West, just tell me about being involved with Operation New Uniform. Why is that important to you, and why do you think it's important for our community?
Well, as I said up there in my little speech, these are the real one percenters, the people that raise their right hand to support and defend this great nation, and we have to honor them, not just in the uniform and in this new uniform, and we got to help them with that transition. You know, my dad was a World War II veteran, my older brother was a Vietnam veteran, I did 22 years myself, I have a younger relative that just retired, and my father-in-law was a Vietnam veteran. He's buried in Arlington. So it's important that we enable people that have a sense of service, a sense of commitment, a leadership aspect, an incredible level of competence to be able to transition to go out into our communities and to our businesses and continue that level of service and commitment.
I know Operation New Uniform appreciates your support, the message you had to these graduates today. What do you receive when you hear these graduates talk about their experience in a program like this?
Well, I think it's just great because there's a level of trepidation that you have. I mean, I even had it when I retired and I got involved in what is called the Troops to Teachers program. And when I came to Florida, I started out as a high school teacher in government and history. So you've got to have these programs that help these people come out of the military, to get them to understand you're still valuable, you still have assets that the local community needs and the business environment needs, and that's what you see with Operation New Uniform. And I'll be very honest, the military does not do a good job in helping our men and women to transition to go out into those successful, good-paying positions.
It's interesting, when I think about Northeast Florida, my time here, it's really apparent to those of us who are here, we're a military-friendly community. Is that the impression throughout the states, throughout the country? You know that if you're in Jacksonville, you're going to be appreciated as a veteran?
Well, I think when you have communities that have large military installations like you have here in Jacksonville on up to Kings Bay, that you have that sense of understanding, camaraderie, and honoring these people that have served. When you get away from places that don't have these large military installations or any connection to the military whatsoever, it's kind of lost. And so what I'd like to see is Operation New Uniform uniform be able to spread, not just in Jacksonville and Tampa, but across the South and get further into the United States of America to help these young men and young women to be able to make that transition to a new uniform.
Challenge for these active duty folks saying, I'm going to separate from the military and try something new. Challenge right now because of a government shutdown for so many people who are saying, what's happening with my paycheck? What's your word to them on how they get through a challenge like happening right now in this government shutdown?
Well, I think that one of the things being in the military, we've seen a lot of challenges to include being shot at. So I think it's about the perseverance, it's about the courage that you have, and it's about that character that you have. And I'd say, you know, having been a member of Congress, you know, shame on us that we don't put our military and our veterans first and foremost. We don't have a country if we don't have people that are willing to serve in the military. We don't have a country if we don't have veterans. And again, this is that small 1% that is out there doing the heavy lift for keeping us free.
Colonel West has been involved with ONU several years and has a spot as an honorary board member for the nonprofit. All right, before we go, Florida lawmakers are gearing up for the next legislative session in January. Hundreds of new bills already filed, and more than a dozen are proposed amendments to the state constitution, mostly focusing on property taxes, a top priority for Governor DeSantis. One proposed amendment seeks to exempt seniors 65 and older from paying non-school property taxes on their homes. This would only apply to homes owned and maintained as a permanent residence for at least 5 years, household income under $350,000. Another proposal would establish a homestead exemption for all non-school property taxes. Many more amendments that lawmakers are considering, and our News4JAX team, they put up a full list that you can find by scanning the QR code that we got on your screen, or go to news4jax.com here. Remember, even if lawmakers approve the amendments, voters have to approve them by 60% in 2026 in the election for them to become law in 27. We're going to have JTA's CEO with us next time. Thanks so much for joining us on This Week in Jacksonville.
See why every day more people are choosing News4JAX, Northeast Florida and South Georgia's #1 source for local news.